relationships. Blah 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 blah. Where is the juicy stuff? Strengthen the World Trade Organization. Leaders express grave concerns over the developments of the Middle East. Condemn all attacks against civilians and call for durable ceasefire for all concerned parties to ensure the most effective and efficient access for humanitarian aid and relief supplies. Call on all parties to the conflict to protect civilians, refrain from targeting them, and abide by international humanitarian law, particularly the principles and provisions of the Geneva Convention. Acknowledge the advisory opinion on the International Court of Justice, which is the opinion among others at the UN's and especially the General Assembly, which requested this opinion. And the Security Council should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring an end.
A lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was, we have no Democrats. You know, if it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. You know, if that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, you know, it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. You know, they'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that.
By the way, these tax cuts that are slated to sunset are his tax cuts from the last administration. Remember, like when he says, oh, there's going to be a massive tax hike, what he's actually saying is, the way he designed the tax cuts was so that, with the exception of like one tax bracket in the middle, okay, that is not seeing any change, or not in the middle, but like not the top tax bracket, but there's one tax bracket that doesn't see any change in terms of a tax increase. But the only thing that was made permanent is second from the highest. The only thing that was made permanent is second from the highest tax bracket, and also the corporate tax rate. Other than that, it's supposed to fucking increase again, back to its pre-tax cut levels. That's how they designed it. They designed it to sunset. Now, technically, Trump thought he was going to be a 2-term president. So, of course, this would be someone else's problem once he was gone. But because he lost in 2020 and then ran again, and then won this last election, now he has to deal with it. But it's funny because he's making it seem as though it's someone else's tax policy that he has to deal with. It's him.
And the people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase. And they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason.
They're only doing it for hate.
They know it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost
these
all.
Democrats, they hate beautiful things. I called the bill beautiful. They hate it. They want ugly things. They want an ugly bill. They want to rename it to the ugliest bill anyone's ever seen. It's clear. They don't like beautiful things.
Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very
These
successful.
are tax hikes
please.
of hatred.
Mr. Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced?
White colonizers said the exact same shit to apologize for the transatlantic trade slave, by the way. They're building housing, Assam. Why don't you like it? Yeah, this is abundance. This is abundance mindset, and you silly libtards don't. You silly leftists with your stupid leftist opinions don't understand. China and the Asian countries released a joint statement condemning. Oh yeah, here it is. Joint statement of the Asian China GCC summit. China has also given visa-free travel to the GCC countries, the Gulf countries. In the aftermath of this, here it is in Kuala Lumpur. The following is the full text of the joint statement of the Summit of the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations and the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf, GCC, and China released on Tuesday. They're recognizing close, mutually beneficial economic collaboration, reaffirming desire to further promote GCC relations as rapidly as possible to the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, support the ongoing efforts to release all hostages and those under arbitrary detention, urge all parties concerned. This is basically what Hamas's framework is for a ceasefire being pushed by all the Asian countries and also the GCC. Not that it fucking matters, because it's just like more pressure from international cooperative agreements against the United States of America, but obviously that has yet to work. So don't know why that would work now. Not exactly sure. Republicans changed the rules. Now practically any action the executive branch takes can be challenged in Congress. Any 30 senators can bring up a vote and get a guaranteed 10 hours of floor time, so Democrats could hold the floor indefinitely if they wanted. Georgia State University assistant professor and former House Oversight Committee staffer Todd Phillips laid this out in a prospect piece earlier this month. Any 30 senators can force a CRA resolution onto the floor with a required 10 hours of debate time. These resolutions would need the president's signature, and nearly all of them wouldn't even get the Republican votes necessary to pass the Senate. But according to Senate procedure, they have to be dealt with if enough senators force them onto the floor. They must be debated and voted upon ahead of other Senate business if brought up for consideration. This means that Democrats can tie up the Senate floor for upwards of 10 hours with any single CRA resolution. Senate Dems know about this and have already threatened it, highlighting the absurdity of the Senate procedure may finally force changes, but only if both sides are willing to be absurd. Of course, luckily for us, there is one side that is not willing to be absurd in this process, and that's Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats, who refuse to do anything. This is part of the process. There are many tools in the tool belt to gum up the works. Republicans would consistently push back with every tool at their disposal, and yet Democrats are not doing the same thing. Anyway, here is Trump taking questions from reporters in the Oval Office earlier today.
She's an incredible person, an incredible woman. As our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, that's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Janine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that, Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes And that was a serious prosecutor. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays, people that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief...
Okay, we're going to skip to the questions because I can't stand him glazing Janine Pirro. I think it's wild that Janine Pirro... I guess it's not that wild that Janine Pirro is a part of the administration. It's probably the most expected outcome. God, what a time to be alive, dude. She's drunk all the time, and she's a Fox News personality. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense for Trump to put her up. It's just we are living in the alternative timeline, I think. Something dramatically shifted in the world. Something dramatically shifted in the world, and now we're living in this different world. And for those who were alive, before this dramatic shift happened, every day that goes by is like another step in the descent to madness. Maybe it was Harambe. I don't know.
We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic. Thank you,
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President.
On Russia, Mr. President.
Please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle.
He's very disappointed. He's just so sad. He's like, Vladimir, how could you do this to me?
Of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
You've called for an end to the Gaza war. Given the growing humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to expand the military operation, do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza, because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The president is going to review it, and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Boo is a lie. Remember, I covered this earlier today. It's a fucking lie. They could make Israel do this literally yesterday. They could make Israel do this tomorrow. They are fucking lying. I need you to understand. This is no different than Biden saying we're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. This is no different than Kamala Harris saying that. Okay, this is no different than Anthony Blinken being like, yep, we're working on it. They're not working on it. There is no need to work on it. Okay. The ceasefire negotiation that has taken up many different forms. Okay. The ceasefire process is entirely dictated by Israel's inability to contend with the ceasefire, because Israel is using the hostages and using October 7 as a mechanism to do permanent ethnic displacement of all Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. That's it. Anyone that doesn't realize this reality is silly, lying to themselves. And America has all of the power to put an end to it. They could do it instantly.
It's having to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues
Well,
to
I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza, but we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document, but I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'd be a great thing for them. It could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get